think they're
But if they're
Close to 97, I was a
can't
kid.
decide
I don't.
here, so they usually here.
Bezu's in
They
kind
can, they voted both. They voted both.
of time at the end.
You could smell it from the urine.
Okay. Seeing by the electronic devices, it's 4 o'clock. So I will call this meeting to order and ask Crystal if she would note attendance.
Commissioner Newman,
Present.
Commissioner Hughes,
Present.
Commissioner Godfrey,
Present.
Commissioner Gray is not here. Commissioner Springer,
Here.
Commissioner Laws is not here. Commissioner Morris,
Here.
Mayor Banky,
Here.
Vice Mayor Reynolds.
Present.
That concludes.
Thank you. Before you all are the minutes for the April 27th meeting. May I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
And it's been supported. Are there any questions about the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed. Crystal, is there any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions.
Well, today we're going to explore 3 special use requests. And so I would ask Crystal if she would be so kind as to begin with the first special use permit, S-08-22.
It's a petition from 190 North 20th Street, Inc. Property is zoned T3 Neighborhood Commercial District pursuant to sections 1251.23, 1251.24, 1251.26, 1240.13, and 1281.05 of the zoning code. Would you like me to read the parcel? Okay.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Sullivan, I understand that you are going to make a presentation.
Yep, thank you. First thing I'd like to do before we get going here is just welcome the 3 new members to the commission today. We've got Vice Mayor Carla Reynolds, Mr. William Morris, and Mr. John Hughes from Battle Creek Unlimited. Those are our 3 new representatives on the board, and I'm glad to have you all this afternoon.
Thank you.
The first petition that you have in front of you today is for 190 North 20th Street. It's for an adult use retail marijuana establishment. This application is from 190 North 20th Street Incorporated for 190 North 20th LLC, requesting a special land use approval for the adult use facility that we just discussed. This property previously received a 90-day Part A conditional marijuana permit on June 14th of 2019, but then never completed the Part B of that medical provisioning permit. As a part of that application, they went through site plan review, and so the site plan, or the as-built that you see in your packet today, is what they submitted and is what they have done at that site to date. And so that's the site plan that they've provided here with their application this afternoon. Under the previous zoning ordinance, the special permit or special use permit was not required. They were used by right. Since the update of the zoning ordinance in 2020, both adult use retailers and medical marijuana provisioners both now require special use permits in the T3 zoning district. And so this is why you're seeing this item here in front of you this afternoon.
Thank you.
The applicant is applying to use the existing building that you see in the as-built. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the existing conditions at the site, and the site is in compliance with their 2019 site plan approval. The facility is proposed to operate between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sundays. The applicant is proposing, again, no alterations at this time. The proposed use of the site is consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning code. The property in the past has been used for both retail and service establishments, and it's not anticipated by staff that the proposed use will create any additional negative impacts, specifically traffic, noise, et cetera, beyond what would normally occur with a similar use in the T3 zoning district. One item that I did want to just quickly bring up, it was mentioned in the staff report, and this is for my information as much as anything, not being as familiar with adult use retail sites. Previously, an applicant came before the Planning Commission, I want to say approximately 6 months ago, and proposed some sort of a filtration system to mitigate any kind of odors that may be caused by the use. I don't know that odor is typically an issue with a retailer or provisioning establishment, but it was just one item that, having noticed that it was previously brought up by an applicant in a previous application, it was just something that I put into the staff report that commissioners may want to ask of the applicant here today. And again, that's just with regard to any creation of any conditions that wouldn't be consistent with what would be allowed in the T3. Based on staff's review, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Commission approval of the proposed adult use marijuana establishment, retail establishment at 190 North 20th Street with the conditions outlined in the staff report. I want to bring your attention to an additional condition that the City Attorney's Office brought to staff's attention this morning. We added this fifth condition to the packet, and it's in what you're seeing in front of you this afternoon. That fifth condition addresses the fact that the applicant supplied a property owner's affidavit of consent, which identified the signatory as Mr. Jeffrey Yatuma. However, there was no indication on that form of Mr. Yatuma's position or status as a current officer or member of the entity which owns the property. And so just as a condition of approval, staff just recommends that, that the applicant either provide an updated form that does include that information or ensure that a current officer or member of the entity signs that, that property owner's affidavit and provides that. That's just the additional condition, along with the other four that you see in your packet today.
Thank you very much. I will now open a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on behalf of this petition? If they please come forward, state your name, your address, and your relationship to this request.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Joey Kedjbu. My address is 2207 Orchard Lake Road, Sylvan Lake, Michigan, 48320. I am the attorney for the applicant in this matter. I have listened to the presentation by Mr. Sullivan. It accurately depicts everything that we're trying to do at this facility. And we've recognized all of the different conditions that have been imposed in addition to number 5 that's been added. We have no objection to any of those. We'll comply with all of this. The facility has already been built out. It's got a certificate of occupancy, and really it's just a matter of this point of submitting a step 2 licensing application where we can move forward with both our local and state inspections to make sure compliance for marijuana facilities. In terms of the HVAC, to Mr. Sullivan's point, the comment that he made, these really are not issues in terms of odor from retail facilities. You'll see that more commonly in cultivation facilities. The retail facilities are very enclosed. There's not any heavy equipment that's filtering any kind of excessive odor or nuisance out into the public. So that's really not an issue in the retail facilities. But when this was built, it was equipped with a brand new AC unit, all new vents, everything in there is brand new. It's just a couple of years old. So it's all in very good condition with all the newest, latest techniques and models incorporated into it. If there's anything else I can answer, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. If you just take a seat, and is there anyone in the audience who would speak either in favor or against this request? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask that a motion be presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit S0822 as presented with the additional piece from today.
A motion has been made. Is there a support? Is there support for this motion?
Support.
Hearing a motion and support, is there discussion? Mayor Banky?
Thank you, John. Will there be smoking of cannabis in this facility?
No, it's not permitted by state regulation.
All right.
No, absolutely not.
I didn't understand the filtration system.
Oh, so.
Please come to the
If I may.
microphone.
Yes. Sorry, Mayor, I apologize. Most facilities, retail or otherwise, still incorporate carbon filtration. It's kind of just been an industry standard that just has, been incorporated into facilities since they were built out. Even though retail facilities really don't have any kind of protruding odor that leaves the facility, it's just kind of something that's been introduced for the last 4 or 5 years that a lot of municipalities have required either way. But there's no smoking inside these facilities. It's not permitted by state law.
Okay. Were you aware of the church that's next door?
I am not intimately familiar with the property. I can't speak on that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, churches are not one of the recommended 1,000-foot limitations.
Well, consciously, I have a problem with it.
Okay, consciously, yes.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you, Your Honor. Not just the church, but what about the residents? There's a lot of homes in that area also. But someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have the Robbins Building in Fort Custer, and they wanted to expand and create jobs. I think that they were denied that request based on the residents being in proximity. Why isn't this held to the same standard? And the church. So if the church isn't part of it, maybe we should look at it.
well, as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, unlike liquor or firearms, a church is not one of the prohibited establishments within the 1,000 perimeter, because we had that exact same thing at our previous meeting when we approved the site on Capitol Avenue Southeast that is directly across from the former Roosevelt School that is now a church. And I asked that question specifically and was told that the churches don't apply as opposed to liquor and firearms where it still does. Am I?
That's correct. So the only buffering requirements with adult use, retail, and medical provisioning centers are the buffering from K through 12 schools and libraries open to the public, and then the buffering from other facilities of the same nature. So other adult use, retail, or medical provisioning.
What about the residential?
There is no buffering requirement from residential with regard to retailers or provisioning centers.
The residential, is that a city of Battle Creek requirement? It's different from the grow facilities than it is from the retail facilities? So that's us.
It is, yep. So that's written into the ordinance. The ordinance has some additional buffering requirements for, I think as you mentioned, for process and grow facilities, and that's where those other facilities like churches and residential areas would come in.
Okay, well, I don't know the difference between the two, one you grow and one you use, but I think the rules for the growth facilities seem a little more stringent than they do on the retail. I'm not sure that we've got those priorities right.
Well, that would be a state. I don't know that we can.
He just said it was Battle Creek.
Yeah, but Battle Creek is following the state's guidance, I'm sure.
That would be an item I'd have to look into to see if there's a state, if there's state, or there's requirements for buffering that are provided by the state that were incorporated into the ordinance.
Let's ask our attorney, Marcel.
Excuse me, Mr. Godfrey.
Bring your mic down, please.
I'm going to, at the risk of causing a bunch of static. The city's ordinances adopted the city's own standards as to buffering requirements, both as to the 1,000-foot distance and to the facilities, churches, schools, et cetera. And so there is a little bit of a difference as to Mr. Spranger's question or concern with retail facilities as opposed to the production facilities. That's just the way it is in the ordinance. So,
But that's the city internally, that's not us following.
yes, that's our city ordinances.
That's not us following the state guidelines. So we kind of have a little homework and a little massaging to do of our own ordinances, I would think.
That would be a matter of opinion. I know that the city spent a considerable number of months, several years ago, going through that, and then after they were enacted, there was amendments to the ordinances shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I was on the planning commission at that time. We had several public hearings on that, open to have discussions about what we were proposing. We spent several meetings, as noted, going back and forth on that to make sure that the ordinance had that. The reason that we had grow had a little bit more stringent requirements is there can be more of an odor. As noted, in the provisioning centers, everything comes prepackaged, so there's no smoking, consumption, anything of that. It's just sale of product. So it's no different than if I were to go buy, I don't know, a Snickers from the liquor store. You know, it's prepackaged. That's how they're purchasing the product. Versus we were worried with the grow at the time, and public was worried. I shouldn't say us per se, the planning commission, but when we took public input, there can be more of an odor if it's not properly managed in the grow facilities. So that's why we added the additional barriers on those. From my understanding, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the state does not put out guidelines for this. Every municipality gets to set their own. So every single city, that they either get to choose to opt in or out of for marijuana, either medically or recreational. We chose to opt in, and then we set our guidelines because of that. So certain ones chose to have churches, parks, any of those arrangements, and you can choose the distance. I've worked in other municipalities where it's been 100 feet from one. There's been some that have been 2,000 feet from some. It just varies on the requirements. We took public input at several meetings, and then as a planning commission, put together the best we could, working with the planners at the time, an ordinance based off of that. So that's how we arrived to where we're at today, and the standards that we have.
Anything further?
What was that?
Was there anything further?
Sorry, that's
Any
all.
commissioner? Seeing none, now we have a motion that's been approved, and we're ready then to take a vote. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Spranger?
No.
Commissioner Morris?
No.
Mayor Banky?
No.
Vice Mayor Reynolds?
No.
Motion is denied.
Motion's been denied. If we could then move on to S-09-22, please.
It's a petition from 477 West Michigan, Inc., requesting a special use permit for property located at 477 West Michigan Ave. The request is for an adult-use marijuana retail center. Property is zoned T3 Neighborhood Commercial District pursuant to Sections 1251.23, 1251.24, 1251.26, 1240.13, and 1281.05 of the zoning code.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
So this is, in essence, the very similar situation to the first application that you saw in front of you. Very similarly, in 2019, they went through site plan review for this site at 477 West Michigan Avenue to receive permission to use the site as a medical marijuana provisioning center. Although they started out with the Part A, they never proceeded to the Part B with the city. And so what they're now seeking today is special use approval to use the site at 477 West Michigan Avenue as an adult use retail center. Again, very similar to the last item. They went through site plan review in 2019. What you have before you today is an as-built of the property as it is right now, as it is built out right now, in compliance with their 2019 site plan. They're proposing no alterations to the site and are proposing to simply use the building that's there right now for this use. Beyond that, again, nothing else really is different than the first application. Same standards or the same conditions apply to this one in the staff report. That fifth condition is again present, where we would ask that the applicant provide that affidavit with a confirmed member of that entity.
Thank you. Again, I will call a public hearing and ask for the representative of the owner to.
Joey Kedjbu, address is 2207 Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Michigan, 48320. Here on behalf of the applicant. I'm the attorney for them. Again, this facility has already been built out. It does meet all the setback requirements per the ordinance. It's ready to go. It's obtained a certificate of occupancy. We've identified the different conditions that have been imposed. We have no objection to those as well. And we can satisfy all of those requirements. We just like nothing more than to move forward with this facility and get it operational. Give ourselves the opportunity to participate in this industry and in this marketplace, really. Be an asset to the community. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wanting to speak in favor or opposed to this request? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion on this matter.
I'll make a motion to approve special use permit S0922 as presented.
With the recommendation?
With the recommendations provided by staff.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Mayor Banky.
Thank you, Commissioner John Godfrey. Child care facility right next door.
Please.
Again, I'm not familiar with the property. In terms of the setbacks, as Mr. Sullivan mentioned, there is a setback requirement from other facilities and I believe a school. The state does not provide for any regulations or guidance in terms of child care facilities, religious institutions, or anything like that. As Mr. Newman stated, the city did adopt an ordinance and contemplated these different facilities, and the schools and the other marijuana facilities were the two that were identified from one another. I'm sensitive to what you're saying, Mayor. I am. But my client has taken the time to build out this facility. They've invested a substantial amount of money in the facility. They've gone through all of the proper procedures and protocols leading up to this. They've obtained a certificate of occupancy, and by the strict reading of the letter of the law, they are in compliance with the city's ordinance, an ordinance that was drafted after a long, careful, thought-out, debated series of meetings that took place right here in this building. Again, my best answer is that we're in compliance with the ordinance, and the state doesn't provide guidance on this.
Well, how do you defend a parent that objects to this and says to me, how did you approve a cannabis facility selling right next to the daycare facility?
So I guess my answer to this is and I may be a little more liberal on the subject because I am an attorney in the space. My answer to that would be from a purely regulatory perspective. If somebody approached you, Mayor, and said, how could you allow this? At this point, you know, you'd be simply following the city's ordinance. It wasn't you that unilaterally made that decision. It wasn't you that decided to just allow this facility there, right? This was a long, drawn-out process. This was something that every different resident of the public had the opportunity to come into this building and voice their concerns and give feedback to the Planning Commission. I don't think that any one individual sitting on this council at this point, or commission at this point, should be held responsible for that. I believe in the spirit of the ordinance and the spirit of this process is to carry out what's written into that ordinance. And at this point, we're in compliance with that ordinance. I agree that there may be different moral answers and different moral levels of appreciation for what's going on here in our application, but that would be part of my answer. And the other part of my answer is, from a commission's perspective, there still is a duty to fill a vacant building. There still is a duty to bring jobs to the area. There still is a duty to encourage the city to receive the $56,000 tax payout that they received from the state last year, to encourage, you know, improvement to these buildings and maintenance of these buildings. As a commission member, which I'm not, if you're asking my perspective, that would kind of be my answer. Now, again, I'm sensitive to the question, and I completely understand what you're saying, Mayor. I do.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about the change in the complexion of the neighborhood.
And again, Mr. Mayor, you're definitely entitled to that.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the city attorney. We on this commission have to make our decision based upon the ordinance and the city's definitions that are provided by us, to us. And there are probably moral issues that each one of us have, but we also have a requirement to judge each case based upon the law that governs that decision. Can you give us any insight into that?
Well, Mr. Godfrey, you fairly stated the standard right there. And in a nutshell, that is what this body is balancing, is the requirements in following request that is presented to the Planning Commission, following the ordinances, and what's available with an applicant who comes before the body. We certainly are going to have moral or other ethical concerns. You know, there's certainly going to be objectionable requests to individual members, if not all, but you are guided by your duties as Planning Commission members. And I would add, you know, this body is making a recommendation to the City Commission, which will ultimately decide the question. So are you recommending approval or are you recommending denial? But they will be the ultimate body making that final decision.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for you. On this particular site, are they planning to use the drive-through?
No, I don't believe that's even permitted by local ordinance. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sullivan. I don't think drive-throughs are permitted in Battle Creek.
We don't have anything in the ordinance that addresses marijuana service through a drive-through establishment. We do have general drive-through or drive-through restaurant establishments, which are outlined in the ordinance. It doesn't make mention of marijuana. That's what I can say.
So this used to be a bank. I don't believe it's feasible to use the tubes for this. The state laws provide that a municipality may now permit drive-throughs. The fact that Battle Creek doesn't even speak to it, and I don't think it'd be functional to use the tubes for this kind of business, my answer would be no.
Okay, great, all right. This building is in a little bit of disrepair compared to the building on 20th Street. So I'm assuming that if and when it is approved that the owner is going to have to bring it up to speed.
Commissioner Godfrey, to get ahead of you on that one, I drove by the site before I came here, Before I entered this building, I made a call to the building ownership, and I told them this building absolutely must be cleaned up in the next week. We're not waiting until any approval, if and when we get to that point. I've already advised my client that waiting is simply not an option.
Okay.
It is indeed not being kept up to the standards that should be kept up.
Thank you.
I admittedly see that myself.
Thank you very much. Anything further from any commissioner? Seeing now, would you please call a roll?
Mr. Godfrey, if
Yes.
I might briefly, and I should have caught this before with the prior roll call. When the body members are articulating their vote, it would be helpful, and they should, as a matter of course, articulate their reasons for their vote for approval or denial of the request. They could summarize, if we know that one or more of you have spoken on the topic, but at the time of the vote, summarize that if you would, please.
Attorney Stetzel, if I may, is there a possibility to also get those reasons for the prior denial, since there was no reasons
Yes,
listed?
there is, sir. I'm going to ask at the end that we
Thank
go
you.
back and go through that roll just for that purpose.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And once again, I remind our commissioners that we have to vote on this by the regulations that are before us. I mean, if it was a moral issue, I personally would be against anything with marijuana or any other drug in the city of Battle Creek, but that is not the law. That's not the regulation to put down in front of us. So I do ask you in voting on this matter that you would consider the ordinance of the city of Battle Creek, and are they in compliance with that ordinance?
And Mr. Godfrey, for reference on that, what you're referring to is Chapter 1281.05C, the decisions on application or basis for determination for special use.
Could you speak more into your microphone?
I'm sorry, what you're referring to is, it's in your staff reports, the standards, Chapter 1281.05C, the decision on an application, the basis for determination for special use permits. And those are the standards that the body is looking at in reaching a determination on an application.
Commissioner Hughes, did you have something?
Yeah, I apologize. If it's not too late, I do have a question.
No, please do.
Is the property currently being actively marketed for sale?
477, I don't know the answer to that right now. I don't know offhand.
So if it was being actively marketed for sale, is the applicant intending to be the individual operating the business?
At this point, that is the intention. I've had a discussion, I don't believe it was with Attorney Stetzel, I think it may have been somebody else who represents, I forget his name, but I spoke with them a couple weeks back leading into this hearing, and I explained to them that if we do get this approval and it does get past the City Commission, right away we're applying for a state operating license. Yes.
And then I have a question for city staff as well.
Please.
Is,
Who are you addressing it to? Mr. Sullivan?
I would imagine, does the property does it in fact have a certificate of occupancy if the land special use permit is not in place?
So I believe at this point, I do not believe right now that there's a certificate of occupancy in place for the medical marijuana use because they never fulfilled the Part B portion of the medical permit. While that's the case, that's separate still from what they're asking for today. What they're pursuing today is the adult use retail permit, and then they'll pursue their state licensing if they were to get an approval from the city.
Thank you.
Other questions? Now seeing, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Newman,
Yes, and I'm voting yes, as I feel it meets the special use requirements as outlined in the City of Battle Creek ordinances for marijuana.
Commissioner, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying bless you to who that was, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I didn't mean
okay.
to speak.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, as well, for meeting the requirements, but also from an economic development standpoint, seeing an actual use with the building is what I would be looking for.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes, because it meets the standards and the ordinances of the city.
Commissioner Springer?
No, and several reasons. One, it's in a close proximity to residential zone, the daycare. I know that that's not part of the requirement, but I think that as a city leader, people count on us to make the right choices, and I'm making that right choice today. The other thing is I don't believe that the cultivation and grow facilities and the retail facilities are congruent, and that may be an internal thing with the Planning Commission and the City Commission that maybe we could work on. That's my opinion. But, and there's other reasons, but those are three that come out.
Okay. Commissioner Morris?
No.
Would you explain your vote?
Huh?
Would you explain your vote? We were each asked to explain your vote.
It's about the neighborhoods and so on and so forth. Especially, it's just not a good place around the neighbors and so on.
Okay. Mayor Benke?
I'll vote no, and then I will go on record as stating without a reasonable doubt, I have not been convinced that there will be a substantial improvement to the property in the immediate vicinity to the community as a whole.
Okay. Vice Mayor Reynolds?
I'm going to vote no as well, and my reason would be the neighborhood as well as the child care right next door.
All right. Motion denied.
Motion fails. Crystal, would you please proceed with the reading of S-10-22?
Petition from 306 West Columbia Ave, Inc., requesting a special use permit for property located at 306 West Columbia Ave. The request is for an adult-use marijuana retail center. Property is zoned T3 Neighborhood Commercial District pursuant to Sections 1251.23, 1251.24, 1251.26, 1240.13, and 1281.05 of the zoning code.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
Yep, so similar again to the first two. This is an application to use the existing building at 306 West Columbia for an adult use marijuana retail center. In 2019, similar to the first two, the applicant submitted a site plan for approval as a part of their Part A process for a medical provisioning center. They did not follow through with the Part B portion of that application, and so what they're now pursuing today is a recommendation from the Planning Commission regarding their adult use retailer application. Similar to the first two staff reports that you saw, no alteration is proposed to the site. I did notice in their application for this site in particular, they did mention that there'd be the removal of some fencing in the rear to create some extra space for parking. I believe that's in reference to their 2019 site plan because there was, from what I understand, some fencing behind the building that housed, I think, some vehicle storage, and so that has been removed, and there's currently, I think, parking in that area right now. So there's no other alteration proposed to the site. Again, similar to the first two items that you saw, based on their site plan approval and the standards of the zoning ordinance, staff recommends approval of this item with the same 5 conditions that apply to the first two items that you saw. Specifically, again, remember that 5th condition is in there for the updated affidavit from the applicant.
Thank you. I declare the public hearing open, and I would ask if you would make your presentation, please.
Joey Kedgebu, address is 2207 Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Michigan, 48320. Again, I'm here on behalf of the applicant, petitioner who's seeking special use approval for an adult use facility. The facility is again in compliance with all of the ordinance standards, all of the setback requirements, and is, to my knowledge, away from all sensitive uses as outlined in Mr. Sullivan's presentation. The facility was built out similar to the prior two petitions before you at tonight's meeting, and it is ready for occupancy. It's a matter of simply getting licensed at this point. I would respectfully request that you grant an approval of the petition requested.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed and ask for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the special use permit S10-22 as presented with the additional staff comments.
Thank you.
Support.
And it's been supported. Any discussion on the motion and at this time? Commissioner Newman.
This facility has been licensed for medical marijuana in the past, correct? This is just the adult use piece?
This is the adult use piece. Staff's understanding of where they left off in 2020 was that the medical marijuana Part B portion of their application was not completed. It's currently not operating as a medical marijuana.
However, did the planning commission approve it for medical in the past?
No, it would have simply gone through administrative site plan review. Special use permits weren't required in 2019 when they applied at that point. That requirement came into play in 2020 when the zoning ordinance was amended or was updated to include the T3 zoning district, and so the T3 requires special use permits now for these uses.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Newman,
Yes, as I feel it meets the special use requirements as outlined in the City of Battle Creek ordinances for marijuana.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes, because I feel that it meets the requirements.
Commissioner Godfrey,
Yes, for the same reasons.
Commissioner Spranger,
No, for several reasons. Basis for determination, paragraph B, that it would be harmonious to the general vicinity and will not change the essential character of the neighborhood. I'm not sure how marijuana and a gym where you work out, how those two exist, but since I don't do that, marijuana, maybe I'm missing something, but that's one thing. The use will not be hazardous to the existing future neighborhood use. That's a residential area. I'm not sure that that's harmonious. So under the basis for determination, those are two to start. It is in close proximity to a residential zone. And then if you read the basis under C, the use will be adequately served by schools. That's interesting. So just those 2 points, I'm voting no.
okay. Commissioner Morris,
No.
Would you
Mayor, I'm sorry, go
would
ahead.
you justify your vote, please?
Well, again, in the back, and some of the neighbors around there, I think has a real problem with that. It's my opinion. I just think it's just not a good place to have one. Period.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Benke,
I'll vote yes on this one because it meets the basis for determination.
and Vice Mayor Reynolds.
I will vote yes as well because of it meets the requirements.
Okay. Motion approved.
This motion is approved. We'll now move on with the rest of the agenda.
Before,
Could you go back, please, and run through have Ms. Bax run through the...
Yes, we can do that.
For S0822.
On the first, and I didn't keep a tally, but stating in the same order that we voted, Commissioner Newman, would you state the reason for your yes vote?
did you want to add anything first?
No, I think just have Ms. Bax call the roll in the order. That will help the commissioners know when it's, have Ms. Bax call the roll in order. That way the commissioners will know when it's their turn to
Okay.
speak.
Okay. Commissioner Newman,
I voted yes because I felt that it met the special use permit guidelines as outlined in the Battle Creek ordinance for marijuana.
Okay. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, because it meets the special use requirements.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes, same reasons.
Commissioner Springer?
No, I didn't feel it met the basis for determination. And the difference between our retail and cultivation, the difference is there. I have a problem with that. No.
Okay. And Commissioner Morris?
Well, basically, because of neighbors and stuff again, I just don't think it's a bad place to have it.
Okay. Mayor Benke?
I voted no. I wasn't convinced without a reasonable doubt under C and D, the basis for determination.
And Vice Mayor Reynolds?
I voted no because it was close proximity to the church.
Thank you very much, Phil. Any new business?
No new business.
Comments by the public, if there is any, and there is none. Comments by the staff? Let's start with the staff. Mr. Sullivan.
No comments other than, again, just reiterating, just welcome to the new members of the commission today.
Susan?
Thank you. I don't have any comments.
Marcel?
No, sir, I have none. Thank you.
Crystal?
No comments.
And commission.
Do we know where Linware Gray is today?
She notified me, it was about an hour before the meeting, that she would not be able to attend today.
I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the attendance is very important, and that if you can't make it, please call in. But the city commission is monitoring attendance at respective commission meetings very closely.
Any other comments? I'm going to make a couple comments. I'm concerned the difference between the voting of the Planning Commission and the City Commission, and I've served on them both extensively. The Planning Commission really needs to vote in line with the ordinances put before it. Then we make a recommendation to move this to the City Commission, and they can vote any way they want on an issue. But I'm very concerned that by injecting our own personal feelings that are opposed to the ordinance of the City of Battle Creek, that we are opening the Planning Commission to potential legal action on an issue. I understand your personal concerns. I have personal concerns on the issue of drugs also. But the ordinance is very, very clear what we have to adhere to. How it goes to the City Commission and how they vote is completely different than how we vote. Marcel, am I out of line?
I'm not going to say you're out of line, sir. You're the chair.
Speak into the microphone, please.
I'm not going to say you're out of line, sir. You're speaking to your fellow planning commissioner members. This is your time to speak.
Is there anything further before this body? Seeing not the motion, then we are adjourned.